Okay, here's yet another woody vine in North Florida. Growing up this loblolly pine here, which is a common place to find this vine, is Virginia creeper, or Parthenocissus quinquefolia. This is actually in the grape family. So the genus grape is Vitis, the grape family is the Vitaceae. Parthenocissus is one of the genera within that family. And this one is often confused with poison ivy. Now, for the most part, Virginia creeper has leaves of 4, where poison ivy has leaves of 3. There are some Virginia creeper plants that will show up with only leaves of 3. And I'm going to show you some ways when we talk about poison ivy of how you can be sure that you're looking at poison ivy versus Virginia creeper. Virginia creeper, a very common, somewhat weedy vine. This one is interesting because rather than tendrils, Virginia creeper uses what's called holdfasts. So if we look very closely here, can you see those little guys there? Those are called holdfasts. So instead of a tendril that winds around and helps crawl, this one has little holdfasts that actually kind of stick to the surface and help it crawl up. So when this one gets stuck to your home, it can often be a little bit troublesome because those little holdfasts can get stuck, and as you're taking it off, might take off some of the paint. So this is Virginia creeper, a good native vine. It can be a little bit weedy. But if it's in an area where it's not causing any harm or is not necessarily undesirable, you should leave it because, again, this is another very valuable native plant for wildlife. Here we are to poison ivy, Toxicodendron radicans, a very common native woody vine for North Florida. And I'm going to move the camera so you can get a very good view here of the poison ivy, making pretty good coverage here along the fallen pine log here. Poison ivy is pretty aggressive, right? So it can be considered a native kind of weed. It will definitely invade garden beds where you don't want it. The important thing to remember is that poison ivy is a very important food plant for birds, mammals, all sorts of wildlife. Humans, kind of interestingly, are the only mammals that are kind of allergic, that show a reaction to poison ivy. Right next to the poison ivy is the Virginia creeper. So here is Virginia creeper. Hope you can see Virginia creeper in my hand here. And then right next door is poison ivy. So poison ivy, again, will always have those leaves of 3, where Virginia creeper will often have leaves of 4 or 5. The other thing with poison ivy is they always have that reddish tint to the petioles. That's the base of the leaf. So if you're kind of curious of what you're looking at, what you got, look around at multiple leaves. See if you see 4 or 5. If so, then you have Virginia creeper. Otherwise, you might want to play it safe and just assume that it's poison ivy. Now, for poison ivy that gets into an area that is somewhere where you frequent often, this is the kind of the back end of the property. I just kind of leave it here. I'm usually not over here, and I'm not terribly allergic to it either. But where this plant is growing in an area that you walk through often, or if you're very sensitive, like my daughter, who's very sensitive to poison ivy, really the best way to control this is with some herbicides. So you can use an herbicide called triclopyr. It's pretty much sold under the poison ivy remover or poison ivy killer at the store. And you just spray a nice little sheen on those leaves, and it's a product that gets down into the roots and helps you control poison ivy without having to get gloves and bags and everything to try to pull it out yourself.